What if I told you that the greatest injustice you ever suffered was, in fact, the greatest gift life could give you? What if that betrayal that broke your heart, that humiliation that made you cry for months, that loss that left you devastated, what if all of this was exactly what your soul asked for to evolve? Stay with me until the end of this video because I am going to share with you a secret I learned during my years in a Tibetan monastery. A secret that completely transformed my relationship with injustice and that can free you from the endless cycle of anger and bitterness that has been consuming your inner peace. Hello, dear truth seeker. I am Tashi Master. And this is our digital sanctuary, where we explore the deepest mysteries of existence through Buddhist wisdom. Before we embark on this transformative journey, I need you to make a conscious decision. If this message reached you today, it was no coincidence. The universe conspires to place in the hands of the right people the teachings that their souls are ready to receive. Click the Sign Up Now button and become part of this global movement of consciences that are choosing wisdom over rebellion, understanding over bitterness. Your registration is your vote for the transformation of humanity. Now, my dear, I want you to close your eyes for a moment and feel. Do you feel that wound that still throbs in your chest? That memory that burns like hot coals every time you remember it? Maybe it was that promotion given to the person who least deserved it. Maybe it was that person you loved who betrayed you in the cruelest way. Maybe it was that unfair accusation that tarnished your reputation. Or maybe it was something even deeper, the loss of a loved one, a life-changing accident, an illness that arrived without warning. You're feeling it now, aren't you? That toxic mix of anger, indignation, sadness, and helplessness. That question echoing in your mind like a desperate cry. Why did this happen to me? What did I do to deserve this? Where is the justice in this world? I know this pain intimately, my friend. I know it because I've been where you are now. And it was this very pain that led me to the gates of a monastery lost in the mountains of Tibet. Let me tell you my story. 15 years ago, I was a successful, married executive with a life that seemed perfect to the world. Until, in a single day, everything collapsed like a house of cards. I discovered that my partner had betrayed me, stealing not only the company's money, but also destroying contracts and leaving me with unpayable debts. That same day, as if the universe wanted to test my limits, my wife confessed that she'd been having an affair with my best friend for 2 years. In 24 hours, I lost my business, my marriage, my home, my trust in people, and my faith in life. I was literally left homeless at 35, with nothing but the clothes on my back and a heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. For months, I lived consumed by rage. I plotted revenge. I dreamed of ways to make my enemies pay for what they had done. Hatred became my daily fuel. But it was a fuel that burned me from the inside. Until one night, looking at my reflection in the window of a 24-hour cafe where I spent the nights unable to sleep, I saw something that frightened me. I had become exactly what I hated most, a bitter, resentful person full of inner poison. It was in this moment of utter despair that I made a decision that would change my life forever. I sold everything I had left and bought a one-way ticket to Nepal and set out to look for answers in the most unlikely places. After weeks of hiking through the Himalayan mountains, physically and emotionally exhausted, I found a small Buddhist monastery nestled in a rocky hillside that seemed to touch the clouds. The abbot, a monk with deep eyes and a serene smile named Lama Tenzin, welcomed me as if he had been waiting for me for years. "You came for justice," he said, without me having told my story. "But what you will find here is something far more powerful than justice." "What could be more powerful than justice?" I asked, still filled with anger. "Understanding," he replied simply. "Justice is about the past. Understanding is about liberation."
In my first days at the monastery, I was furious. While I suffered cleaning latrines and carrying water from the mountain, my enemies were probably living a comfortable life with what they had stolen from me. Where was the justice in that? It was then that Lama Tenzin told me a story that began to shake the foundations of my understanding of justice and injustice. A monk was walking along a riverbank when he saw a scorpion struggling in the water, about to drown. Moved by compassion, the monk reached out to save the scorpion, but the scorpion stung him painfully. The monk withdrew his hand, but seeing that the scorpion was still drowning, he reached out again. Again, he was stung. This happened several times. A man watching the scene shouted, "Monk, you are crazy! Stop trying to save this poisonous creature. It only wants to harm you." The monk calmly looked at the man and said, "It is the scorpion's nature to sting, but it is my nature to save. Why should I let his nature change mine?" "Do you understand?" Lama Tenzin asked, seeing my confused expression. "Your anger isn't punishing those who hurt you. It's just poisoning you. They remain who they are, but you're allowing their nature to change yours." As the days passed at the monastery, participating in the daily meditations, teachings, and silent work, something began to shift within me. Lama Tenzin taught me about karma, not as divine punishment, but as the natural law of cause and effect applied to conscious actions. "Do you think your partners and your ex-wife escaped the consequences?" he asked me one day as we swept the monastery courtyard at dawn. "Do you believe one can sow seeds of betrayal and reap flowers of happiness? But they're fine. They're rich, happy, living their lives normally while I'm here suffering." "Ah, my young friend," he smiled with infinite compassion, "you're confusing material comfort with inner peace. You're confusing temporary pleasure with genuine happiness." He made me think. A person who is capable of betraying those who trust them, who is capable of stealing and lying, do you think that person sleeps in peace? Do you think they trust others? Do you think they feel safe in relationships? Hell is not a place we go after death. It is a state of mind we carry here and now. But it was during my 3rd month at the monastery that I received the most transformative lesson of all. Lama Tenzin took me for a hike to a cliff where we could see the vastness of the mountains. There, he asked me a question that changed my life. "If you could go back in time and stop all that injustice from happening to you, would you do it?" "Of course," I replied immediately, without hesitation. "So answer me," he continued calmly. "If none of that had happened, would you be here now? Would you have sought these mountains? Would you have found these teachings? Would you have discovered this peace that is beginning to blossom in your heart?" I remained in absolute silence. The answer was obvious. No. I would still be trapped in the same superficial life, chasing empty goals, never questioning the deeper meaning of existence. The greatest injustice, he said softly, would be for you to go through life without ever awakening to who you truly are. Those people you consider your enemies were actually your greatest teachers in disguise. They forced you to find a treasure you would never have sought if everything had gone perfectly. At that moment, something broke inside me, but not painfully. It was as if a hard shell that had formed around my heart simply dissolved. For the first time in years, I felt gratitude. Not masochistic gratitude for the pain, but genuine gratitude for the transformation that pain had made possible. I began to see my story from a completely different perspective. Instead of seeing myself as a victim of injustice, I began to see myself as a spiritual warrior who had been tested and forged by the fires of adversity. Lama Tenzin taught me that there are 3 stages in the spiritual journey through injustice. First stage, the victim. You see yourself as someone who has bad things happen to you. You live in reactivity, anger, and a desire for revenge. Your energy is focused on the past and on those responsible. The second stage is the survivor. You recognize that you have power over your reactions. You learn to no longer be controlled by external circumstances. You develop resilience and inner strength.
Third stage, the spiritual warrior. You understand that there are no victims or culprits, just souls at different stages of evolution, all participating in a cosmic dance of mutual learning. You use each experience as fuel for spiritual growth. During my stay at the monastery, Lama Tenzin taught me 3 practical keys to freeing oneself from the suffering caused by injustice. First key, the practice of the mirror. Every time you feel wronged by someone, he said, ask yourself, what aspect of myself is this person reflecting? Not to blame yourself, but to grow. He explained to me that, according to Buddhist teachings, we attract into our experience exactly what our soul needs to learn. If we attract betrayal, perhaps we need to learn about true trust, not naive trust, but trust based on wisdom. The second key was the meditation of compassion for the aggressor. This is the hardest and most liberating exercise, he advised me. Every day for 10 minutes, mentally send love and compassion to the person who hurt you. At first, I resisted violently. How can I send love to someone who destroyed me? Because, he replied patiently, as long as you carry hate, you are energetically connected to that person. They continue to control you even from afar. Only genuine love can cut these invisible cords and truly set you free. The third key was the transforming question. Whenever you feel wronged, ask this question: how can this situation make me a wiser, more compassionate, and stronger person? Shift your focus from "why did this happen to me" to "what did this happen to me for?" It was during my 4th month at the monastery that I witnessed something that forever cemented my understanding of injustice. Allow me to tell this story that still moves me to this day. There was a young monk in the monastery named Lobsang, known for his purity of heart and dedication to his studies. One day, a valuable sacred relic disappeared from the main temple. Without any proper investigation, some older monks, driven by jealousy of his devotion, pointed to Lobsang as the culprit. They accused him in front of the entire monastic community. I saw the pain and confusion in the young monk's eyes, the same pain I had felt when I was unjustly accused and betrayed. I expected Lobsang to explode with indignation, to defend himself vehemently, to demand justice. But what he did left me speechless. He knelt before his accusers and said, "If you believe I am capable of stealing something sacred, then I need to look deeply into my heart to understand what vibration I am attempting to attract such a perception. I accept this accusation as a mirror for my spiritual growth."
I was shocked. Lama Tenzin, observing my reaction, whispered, "This is the power of non-resistance. Watch and learn." For days, Lobsang was treated with distrust and contempt by some monks, but he continued his daily practices with even greater dedication, serving the community with even greater love, studying with even greater fervor. A week later, the truth came out. The relic had simply fallen behind the altar during cleaning. Lobsang was completely innocent. When the monks came to ask for forgiveness, expecting to see him triumphant or resentful, Lobsang received them with tears in his eyes, not of pain, but of gratitude. "Thank you," he said sincerely, "for giving me the opportunity to practice equanimity in the face of injustice. This week has taught me more about detachment and compassion than years of meditation in isolation. You have been my greatest teachers." That night, Lama Tenzin took me for a walk under the stars. "Now do you understand," he said, "why the great spiritual masters of history have endured profound injustices?" He told me how Buddha was slandered and persecuted, how Jesus was crucified by the very ones he was supposed to save, how great saints were tortured by those who did not understand their light. Injustice, he revealed, is not a glitch in the cosmic system. It is a spiritual initiation. It is the universe asking, "Are you ready to love unconditionally? Are you ready to forgive the unforgivable? Are you ready to find inner peace regardless of external circumstances?" I began to understand what all the great spiritual traditions speak of: the fire of adversity that purifies the soul, the valley of shadows that must be traversed, the dark night of the soul that precedes the dawn of enlightenment. It was then that I made the hardest and most liberating decision of my life. I wrote letters to my ex-partner and my ex-wife. But these letters weren't of accusation or demand. They were letters of genuine gratitude.
To my former partner, I wrote, "Thank you for freeing me from a life where I believed my happiness depended on material success. Thank you for forcing me to discover that I am much stronger than I imagined. Thank you for teaching me the difference between naive confidence and true wisdom." To my ex-wife, "Thank you for showing me that true love isn't possession or emotional dependence. Thank you for freeing me from a relationship based on illusions so I could learn to love myself first. Thank you for teaching me that betrayal only hurts when we still have unrealistic expectations of others." When I finished writing these letters, something extraordinary happened. I felt a lightness in my chest that I hadn't experienced in years. The weight of anger, resentment, and the need for revenge simply evaporated. I didn't send these letters. The exercise was for me, not for them. But the forgiveness was real, profound, transformative. During one of our conversations, Lama Tenzin surprised me by citing modern scientific research that confirmed the ancient teachings. "Western science now proves," he said, "that resentment and chronic anger release stress hormones that literally poison the body. People who practice forgiveness have lower rates of heart disease, depression, and anxiety." He explained to me that neurologically, when we get stuck in cycles of anger and injustice, our brains become trapped in primitive fight-or-flight patterns. This prevents the development of areas responsible for wisdom, compassion, and creativity. Forgiveness is not just a spiritual ideal, it is a biological necessity for human flourishing. Based on my experience and the teachings I have received, I have identified 4 natural stages we all go through when transforming injustice into wisdom. First stage, shock and denial. This can't be happening to me. It must be a mistake. People can't be that cruel.
This is the phase where our mind tries to protect our naive view of the world. It's natural and necessary. It's the time our psyche needs to process the initial trauma. Second stage, anger and revolt. This is unfair. How dare they? I'll make them pay. The world is cruel and people are evil. This is the phase of inner fire. It's important not to suppress this anger, but also not to permanently identify with it. It's pure energy that can be transformed. Third stage, bargaining and analysis. If I do this differently, maybe, if I can prove that, if I find the right person to help me. This is the stage where we still believe we can fix injustice through external actions. It's the ego's last gasp before surrender. Fourth stage, acceptance and transmutation. I accept that this happened. I accept that I cannot change the past, but I can choose what to do with this experience. I can use it to become wiser, stronger, and more compassionate. This is the true stage of liberation, when we stop fighting reality and start dancing with it. Lama Tenzin taught me a daily practice that became the foundation of my transformation. He called it the 3 forgiveness meditation. First forgiveness, forgiving others. Every morning for 5 minutes, visualize the people who hurt you enveloped in golden light. Mentally send them love and understanding. Remember, hurt people hurt others. They acted out of their own pain and ignorance. Second forgiveness, forgiving life. For 5 minutes, forgive life for not being what you expected. Forgive the universe for allowing injustice to happen. Accept that there is a greater mystery at work, something your limited mind cannot fully comprehend. Third forgiveness, forgive yourself for all the mistakes that led to that situation. Forgive yourself for trusting too much or too little. Forgive yourself for not seeing the signs. Forgive yourself for reacting with anger or bitterness. You did the best you could with the level of awareness you had at the time. One of the most profound lessons I learned was about the power of the stories we tell about our experiences. There are 3 versions of any injustice you have suffered, Lama Tenzin taught me. The victim version: I am a good person who was attacked by bad people and now I am suffering unjustly. The survivor version: I went through a difficult experience, but I am strong and managed to overcome it. And the spiritual warrior version: I was chosen for a spiritual initiation that transformed me into someone wiser, more compassionate, and more powerful.
He made me realize that the same objective experience can be told in completely different ways, and each version creates a different emotional and spiritual reality. You have the power to choose what story to tell about your life, he said, and the story you choose to tell becomes the reality you live. The most transformative moment of my entire journey occurred in my 6th month at the monastery. During a deep meditation, I had an experience that I can only describe as a sudden awakening. Suddenly, I could see my entire life from a higher perspective, as if I were a cosmic observer looking at a soul's journey through time. I saw that every apparent injustice had been perfectly orchestrated to teach me exactly what I needed to learn at that moment in my spiritual evolution. My partner's betrayal taught me about true security, which comes not from material possessions, but from inner resources. My wife's infidelity taught me about true love, that it is not possessive or dependent, but free and unconditional. The loss of everything taught me about my true identity, that I am not my social roles, my assets, or my status, but pure consciousness experiencing a temporary human adventure. In that moment of absolute clarity, I felt something I never imagined possible, deep and genuine gratitude for the injustices I had suffered. Not masochistic or forced gratitude, but a real recognition that those experiences had been the greatest gifts life could give me, disguised as tragedies. It was then that Lama Tenzin shared with me one of the most secret and controversial teachings of Tibetan Buddhism, something that only advanced disciples are ready to understand. "Are you ready to hear a truth that may shock you?" he asked, his eyes piercing. I nodded despite my nervousness. "According to the deepest teachings," he began carefully, "we attract into our experience exactly what our soul needs to evolve. Not at the level of the personality. That part of us obviously doesn't want to suffer. But at the level of the soul, of the higher self, there is a wisdom that orchestrates experiences for our growth." My mind immediately resisted. "Are you saying I chose to be betrayed? That I wanted to go through all that?" "Not the little you, the ego," he clarified patiently, "but the bigger you, the eternal soul that is on a multi-lifetime journey toward complete enlightenment. That part of you knows that the diamond only becomes brilliant through pressure and cutting." He then told me about the Tibetan concept of soul contracts, agreements we make before we incarnate about what experiences and lessons we want to experience in this particular lifetime. Those you consider your greatest enemies may actually be your closest soul friends on the spiritual plane. They have accepted difficult roles in your life to help you grow. It is an act of supreme love. I confess that initially I completely rejected this idea. It seemed absurd, even cruel. How can I accept that I chose to be cheated on? Isn't that victim blaming? Lama Tenzin laughed softly. "It's not about guilt, it's about power. When you see yourself only as a victim of circumstance, you become powerless. When you understand that at some deep level, you are a co-creator of your experiences, you regain your full power to transform your reality." He asked me to observe my own transformation. Was the man who came here months ago bitter, resentful, broken, happier or less happy than the man who sits here now? The answer was obvious. Despite having lost everything materially, I was more fulfilled, wiser, and more at peace than I had ever been in my entire life. "So," he concluded, "those injustices brought you to a higher state of being. How can that really be injustice?" "Now I will teach you the most advanced and transformative practice of all," Lama Tenzin announced during my graduation ceremony at the monastery. "It's called Tonglen for adversaries, the practice of consciously breathing in the suffering of those who have hurt you and breathing out peace and blessings for them. The practice worked like this. 1. Breathing conscious of other people's pain. Visualize the person who hurt you. Imagine all the pain, confusion, anger, and ignorance that must exist in their heart for them to be capable of causing you pain. As you inhale, consciously breathe this pain, receiving it into your heart with compassion. 2. Expiration of blessings. As you exhale, send this person everything they truly need: peace, love, wisdom, emotional healing, and freedom from suffering. Visualize golden light coming from your heart and completely enveloping them." This practice, he cautioned me, can be very challenging at first. You may feel resistance, anger, or even nausea. This is normal. Continue practicing with kindness to yourself.
When I first practiced this with the image of my former partner, I felt waves of conflicting emotions. But gradually, something extraordinary began to happen. I began to feel genuine compassion for him. I could see that someone truly at peace with themselves would never need to cheat or steal. I could see that their actions came from a place of deep fear, insecurity, and inner emptiness. After months of practicing Tonglen on my opponents, my perception of them changed completely. Where before I saw evil villains, I now saw wounded human beings acting out of their own pain. Where before I saw injustice, I now saw perfect synchronicities of the universe, offering me exactly the experiences I needed to grow. Where I once saw enemies, I now saw unwitting teachers who had accepted difficult roles to help me evolve. This transformation was not just philosophical, it was visceral, emotional, complete. 2 months before I left the monastery, something extraordinary happened that tested everything I had learned. I received a letter. It was from my former partner. In it, he informed me that he had terminal cancer and wanted to apologize before he died. He had discovered my whereabouts through a private investigator and was asking to meet me. My first reaction was shock. Then, surprisingly, I felt a wave of profound compassion. Lama Tenzin, when I told him about the letter, just smiled. The universe rarely offers such clear opportunities to apply the teachings. Will you find it? Without hesitation, I replied, yes. I found my ex-partner in a hospital in Kathmandu. The man I remembered as confident and manipulative was now frail, his eyes filled with regret and fear. He began weakly, "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I destroyed your life out of greed and envy. I've always envied your inner peace, the way people naturally trusted you. I thought that by stealing what was yours, I would feel complete, but I only felt emptier." He continued, "These years were hell. I couldn't sleep peacefully. I couldn't trust anyone because I knew what I was capable of. I lived in constant fear that someone would do to me what I did to you. Money didn't bring happiness. It brought paranoia and loneliness." I sat down beside his bed and held his hand. "Thank you," I said sincerely. He looked confused. "Thank you?" "Thank you for freeing me from a life where I believed my happiness depended on external security. Thank you for forcing me to discover who I truly am beyond social roles. Thank you for teaching me that true forgiveness is possible. You were my greatest teacher." Tears streamed down his face. "How can you forgive me? How can you even thank me?" "Because now I understand that we are all wounded beings trying to find our way back to love. You acted from your pain just as I reacted from mine. Neither of us knew better at the time." We spent 3 hours talking. He told me about his difficult childhood, about his feelings of inadequacy, about the fears that consumed him. I shared my journey of transformation at the monastery. As we said goodbye, he said something that touched me deeply. "For the first time in years, I feel peace. Thank you for showing me that it is possible to be human and divine at the same time." This experience with my former partner revealed to me the deepest truth of all Buddhist teachings. There is no real separation between us and those we consider our adversaries.
We're all aspects of the same universal consciousness, experiencing different roles in the cosmic drama of spiritual evolution. When you truly understand this, the very idea of injustice dissolves. Not because the suffering isn't real, but because you understand that it's part of a larger process of collective awakening. When I finally left the monastery, I didn't return to the world as this same person I had arrived in. I returned as a spiritual warrior, equipped with powerful tools to transform any adversity into an opportunity for growth. Over the next few years, I consistently applied the lessons I'd learned. Each time I faced a new injustice, and they kept happening because it's part of the human experience, I was able to process it completely differently.
Instead of wallowing in months of anger and resentment, I could find the gift hidden in the hardship in a matter of days or even hours. I began teaching these principles to others, creating workshops and retreats on transformation through adversity. I saw hundreds of people undergo the same profound transformations I had experienced. Now, my dear friend, the time has come to ask a direct question that may bother you. How much longer will you carry the weight of past injustices? How many more years will you waste your life energy harboring resentments that only poison you? How many opportunities for growth and joy will you miss by mentally clinging to situations that are already over? Time is ticking, and it won't come back. Every day you choose to remain in the victim energy is one day less of living in the spiritual warrior energy you were born to be. The injustices you have suffered do not define you. Your response to them does. You can choose to remain a prisoner of your old wounds, or you can choose to use those wounds as gateways to higher levels of wisdom and compassion. My dear friend, we've reached the beating heart of the message that brought you to this video, the truth that can free you from decades of unnecessary suffering. The injustices you suffered were not obstacles on your spiritual path. They were the spiritual path. Every betrayal taught you true trust. Every humiliation taught you authentic humility. Every loss taught you what is truly indestructible within you. Every moment of despair prepared you to be a beacon of hope for others going through the same thing. You are not a victim of life's injustices. You are a graduate of the Cosmic University of Adversity, and now you have a sacred responsibility to use this wisdom gained through pain to help others who are still suffering. The crucial moment has arrived, my friend. You have two choices before you. Choice 1. You can treat this video as an interesting story, but continue to carry your old wounds like badges of victimhood. You can continue to hope that your abusers will apologize, that life will become fair, that the world will change to accommodate your expectations. Choice 2. You can decide that this is the last day you allow past injustices to control your inner peace. You can choose to use each painful experience as fuel to become a wiser, stronger, and more compassionate version of yourself. I can't make that choice for you. No guru, no therapist, no self-help book can. This is a decision you make in the sacred silence of your own heart. My dear warrior friend, if you've made it this far, it's no coincidence. In a universe of infinite possibilities, your soul guided you to this message at the exact moment you were ready to hear it. This message was created especially for you who carried the weight of injustice for so long, for you who questioned why bad things happen to good people, for you who wondered where God, the universe, and cosmic justice were when you needed them most. I want you to know something that goes straight to the core of your soul. You are far stronger than any injustice you may face. You are far wiser than any wound you may carry. You are far more powerful than any circumstance that may try to define you. The tears you cried were not signs of weakness. They were sacred rain preparing the soil of your soul to blossom into gardens of wisdom you cannot even imagine. The anger you felt was not evidence that you were a bad person. It was sacred fire burning away everything that no longer serves to reveal the pure gold of your true nature. The despair you experienced was not proof that you were inadequate. It was the necessary darkness before the dawn of your own enlightenment. Before you embark on this transformative journey, I want to ask you 3 questions that will determine how you live from now on. First question: which story will you choose to tell about your experiences of injustice? The victim, the survivor, or the spiritual warrior? Second question: how will you use the wisdom gained through pain to be an instrument of healing in the world? Third question: what will be the first act of radical forgiveness you will practice today, knowing that to forgive is to free yourself? If this message touched something deep in your soul, you now have a sacred responsibility. Be part of the silent revolution of consciousness that are choosing wisdom over victimhood. Subscribe to this channel now and turn on notifications. You'll join a global community of spiritual warriors who are using their most difficult experiences as springboards to higher levels of consciousness. Every week, we share new teachings that can accelerate your journey of transformation. Share this video with someone you know is carrying old wounds. Your action could be the catalyst for the liberation of someone you love. Comment below answering one of these questions. What injustice in your life are you ready to transform into wisdom? What strength have you developed through suffering? What message would you give to someone going through the same situation you have overcome? Your shared experience may be the key that unlocks another human being's emotional prison. Remember, my friend, you are not defined by what happened to you, but by what you choose to do through you with what happened. And that choice is always in your hands. Until our next meeting, carry this truth in your heart. You are a diamond that has been polished by the pressures of life to shine with a light that can illuminate the path of others who still walk in darkness. Namaste. The spiritual warrior in me honors the spiritual warrior in you.